Welcome back. Now we just take a step back and still talk more about how to boost the economy, looking away from oil. We've said that oil seems to be the only commodity that we export. What other areas can we explore alternatives to oil? Now, Nigerians are still grappling with fuel shortage, even though we are oil producing country. If we still have to grapple with all of this and we produce, how can we make things better for ourselves? How can we make the refineries work better? And also make sure that in other areas we excel, the country excels. So we'll be talking about all of this morning, and we have in the studio the president, Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, professor and Department of Geology, University of Ibadan. We are talking about Professor Gbenga Okunlola and also Mr. Ken Okolobo, an analyst, should I say. Welcome this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So, you saw that other segments where we were talking about, Nigeria's trade balancing. How can we really balance this? So much so that we're not just, as a nation, depending on oil. Let me start with Mr. Okunlola.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I want to appreciate you for the invitation. It's important that Nigeria begins to look a little bit now away from oil, because we have a very credible alternative, economically credible alternative to oil. And that's, I'm going to talk as a geoscientist, a geologist, that's the solid mineral sector. It's common knowledge that we have about 44 different types of solid minerals in Nigeria in about 800 locations across all the states of the Federation. And of course, well, prospectivity, not all the 44 could be said to be commercial, but most of them are economically important minerals that could be utilized locally and also for exports. And I think in terms of the economic scale, so to say, you have a case where you have cross-national investments, because it's all over the place. In the south, southeast, southwest, south, northeast, northwest, you have one major mineral deposit or the other. I can go ahead and mention them. And I won't even want to say sometimes most of the commodities that we import to this country would not have been necessary if the solid mineral sector had been developed. We've abandoned it for quite about 40, 45 years now, since the oil was discovered. Maybe I can use the little Yoruba proverb here and translate, pardon me. It said, Ariyawo koyale. That is, you marry a new wife and suddenly you abandon the more matured older one who could make your home for you. And I think that was the case. So we need to go back. These resources, fortunately, are still there because they've been there in the earth, some of them for more than 2.5 billion years, 600 million years. They don't get spoiled, and they won't get spoiled. And they're there for us to use. Take the iron ore, for example, for massive structural development of this country. We have more than enough iron ore deposits. If you take between Lokoja and Okene, for example, you have within that area, 100-kilometer radius, not less than 10 world-class deposits of iron ore deposits.
Between Lokoja and Okene.
Lokoja, Okene, Ajabanoko, Itakwe. Just that 100-kilometer radius. I can mention about 10 of them. Apart from the Itakwe, you have the Ajabanoko, the Uchukuchuku, you have the Agbaja. The Agbaja Plateau and the iron ore deposit is one of the largest that we have in Nigeria. And it's enough for us to use for our steel industry, to produce the iron and steel that we have. We have enough limestone in this country. Nigeria has no business importing cement. Nigeria has no business for cement shortage in about 20 states of the Federation. In Ogun State, for example, after Abeokuta up to the border of Ogun State, Nigeria with Benin Republic, we're talking about more than 200-kilometer belt. Intermittent lens-soil deposits of limestone that could still support more than 50 cement industry. And I'm talking as an expert, not an exaggeration. Ogun State alone. And you have this in other states. In Sokoto State, the Kalambina Formation, I'll use the word formation, it's about 25 kilometers limestone. That's where you have the Sokoto cement. It could still support about not less than 10 cement industry. In the southeast, You have then what we call around the Anambra Basin, a lot of deposits. In Calabar, if you are moving from Calabar down to Uyo, to Mfamosing and all those places, huge deposit. In fact, one of the purest limestone deposits that you have. I'm just mentioning two. Coal, we have more than 600 million tons proven in not less than about 11 states of the Federation. And so you can have so many uses of coal. Lignite, the same thing. Barite, the same thing. These are neglected areas that the government and the private sector needs to be looking at. And I want to say that when all these are developed, if we can fast track their development, not only will it produce the money we need, the finances we need, but we create massive jobs. If you allow me just a minute, 1995, I had to do some studies around Beningwari, and we went to the Emir. They were mining around Kaduna State, okay. And then we had to, do some surveys there, and we went into the bush around Sofom Beningwari, where they call Sofom Beningwari. There was a gold mining around there. We saw more than 10,000 youths mining there, and then we came back to the Emir and said, "Look, sir, all these people, why are they destroying the place?" And the man said, "Please, sir, leave them alone. Since they went into that bush, we have been at peace in our town here, and they've not been disturbing us. You want to reduce restiveness? You want to reduce unemployment? Those alternatives, especially solid minerals, have to be looked into."
Okay. Okay. Mr. Okolibo, we've relied so much on oil. Yeah. You as a Nigerian, which other areas do you think we can put the searchlight and make better things out of it?
It's very clear even from what the professor has said. I mean, we have the agricultural sector, we have the tourism sector, but from what he has said about the mineral sector, barrels, for example, that he talked about are essentially used for mud drilling by these oil companies. Yes. And they need them in very large quantities. And you find that they import barytes. And it's found in Taraba. And I know it is found in very large quantities in Taraba. It's in Cross River. Yes. And this can turn into a very huge income earner for the country. He talked about limestone. We produce 8 million tons of cement in a year, and we need about 9.6 million. So we are in shortfall of production of cement. And why should we be in shortfall for production of cement? Because the truth about it is that before now, in 1960 to 1960, before 1960, when oil became a commercial product, I know coal and tin was exported from Jos. And coal, for example, I hear the coal we have, I'm not an expert, has low sulfur.
It's good coal.
And it's very good coal. And it's coal that is needed. And like he said, it's spread all over the fields. So the mining sector is a huge sector that can earn much more money than oil. Because if it is true that we have 52 billion tons of bitumen, that is twice the reserve we have for oil. Bitumen is used for asphalt. In road construction, after stone base, the next most expensive materials you buy is asphalt. And if you don't have asphalt, you don't have the roads. We all know what we're facing in terms of roads in this country. We import bitumen. Now, if you go to explore these 42 billion reserves of bitumen, you can imagine how much jobs you're going to create, how much funds are going to come into the country. I hear in Ekiti State, they have a very large deposit in quartz, which is used for gel silica. And they also have kaolin. And that is a state that is assumed to be non-oil producing and so does not enjoy the percentage derivation of oil. And so you can imagine if Ekiti can explore all that angle, the kind of money that will come to Ekiti outside oil. Because like you rightly said, all the governors are depending on oil revenue. The states have become lazy, and that's the truth about it. We have become fixated on going for the annual FAC meetings. When we go for the annual FAC meetings, the states come back and they share their oil revenue. And once they share their oil revenue, they go back to seed. Even when you talk of IGR, or internally generated revenue, most times they get it from taxes. That is where it comes from. 90%, I stand to be corrected, of IGR comes from tax. When you have these huge deposits in your state, why not? Yes.
Would you blame them? There's a law that restricts them from mining those solid minerals.
Okay, I know the law is exclusive. It's under exclusive legislation. That is where I was going to come to. You should one thing we must do first is to remove mining from exclusive legislative list. It is very unfair. I was going to come to that. And again, like what he rightly said, he talked about those youths he saw, thousands of them.